The Gravity Masters. The Galactic Trade Summit had been running for 3 standard cycles, and Captain Vex of the Koroth Dominion was already exhausted. His species had evolved on a low-gravity world, their bodies tall and graceful, adapted to environments where weight meant little. The summit station rotated slowly to provide artificial gravity, a compromise set at 0.6 standard units to accommodate the majority of species present. Vex floated through the commercial district, his magnetic boots clicking softly against the metal floor. Around him, delegates from 100 worlds conducted business, their voices a symphony of chirps, clicks, and universal translator hums. The Koroth had been trading partners with most of these civilizations for centuries, their ships renowned across 3 galactic arms. Then he saw them. 2 creatures moved through the crowd with an ease that seemed impossible. They actually walked, without magnetic assistance, their steps firm and purposeful. Vex's vertical pupils contracted as he studied them. They were bipedal, short compared to most species, with flat faces and strange, forward-facing eyes. Their bodies were thick, compressed, as if something had squeezed them down. Humans, his assistant Tilera whispered, her antenna quivering with curiosity. From the Sol system. They just achieved faster-than-light travel 2 cycles ago. Vex watched as one of the humans, a female, based on the translator's pronoun matrix, lifted a cargo container marked with the Vendari Shipping Guild seal. The container, filled with dense metallic or samples, should have required an anti-gravity sled or at least 2 workers with exoframes. She picked it up with her bare hands. The human grunted slightly, adjusted her grip, and carried it across the deck like it was filled with nothing more than air. Her companion, a male with darker skin pigmentation, laughed at something she said and casually leaned against a support beam, his posture relaxed in a way that suggested the station's gravity was barely noticeable to him. "That's impossible," Vex said flatly. "That container masses at least 80 kilograms. In this gravity, that's 48 kilograms of force," Tilera calculated quickly. "Captain, their homeworld data just came through on the network." Her face went pale, or rather, the bioluminescent patterns on her cheeks dimmed significantly. "Sir, their planet has a surface gravity of 1.0 standard units." Vex felt his breathing sacs constrict. 1 full standard unit. The Koroth homeworld barely registered 0.3. The thought of living under such crushing pressure made his bones ache in sympathy. "They evolved under that?" he asked, unable to keep the shock from his voice. "Apparently. And sir, they don't use artificial gravity adjustment on their stations. They live and work at full gravity, all the time." The female human had set down the container now and was speaking with a Vendari merchant. The merchant, whose species hailed from a 0.4 gravity world, kept a respectful distance. Vex wondered if it was fear or simple caution. Over the next several hours, Vex couldn't stop observing the humans. They were everywhere, and their casual relationship with gravity bordered on the supernatural. One human technician climbed a vertical ladder, actually climbed it, hand over hand, carrying tools that would have required a lift drone for anyone else. Another jogged through the corridors for what they called exercise, intentionally exerting themselves in an environment that left most species exhausted after a simple walk. During the formal reception that evening, Vex found himself standing near the human delegation. Their ambassador, an older male named Chen, was discussing trade possibilities with the Therian Commerce Minister. "We understand your concerns about our structural requirements," Ambassador Chen said smoothly. "But I assure you, human engineering is quite robust. Our buildings, ships, and stations are all designed to withstand forces that would crush our vessels like dried seed pods," the Therian interrupted, his translator conveying his anxiety perfectly. "Ambassador, no disrespect intended, but your people's very existence defies what we consider survivable conditions." Chen smiled, an expression Vex had learned meant amusement rather than aggression. "Minister, humans have lived at the bottom of an atmospheric ocean, pulling against a gravitational force strong enough to bend spacetime noticeably, for our entire evolutionary history. We don't think of it as extreme. To us, it's just, home. A young human nearby, part of the security detail, set down a glass and stretched, his joints popping audibly. The sound made several nearby delegates flinch. Sorry, the human said, grinning. Long day. This low G makes my back stiff. Vex stared. The station's gravity made this human's back stiff from being too light. His own people would have considered it a pleasant relief. As the reception continued, Vex watched the humans navigate the social and physical space with equal ease. They were strong, impossibly strong, their muscles forged in conditions that would be considered a death sentence for most species. And they had just entered the galactic stage. Captain Vex sipped his mineral solution and contemplated the future. The galaxy had just met a species that treated crushing gravity like a gentle breeze. He suspected that everything, trade, warfare, exploration, construction, was about to change. The humans had arrived, and they carried the weight of their world with them. The weight of war. The Koroth delegation returned home with stories that most dismissed as exaggeration. Captain Vex filed his report, noting the humans' unusual physical capabilities, but even he didn't fully grasp the implications. Not until the Kryn hive declared war on the Outer Rim colonies. The Kryn were apex predators, an insectoid species that had conquered 12 systems through sheer biological superiority. They were fast, armored, and coordinated through a hive intelligence that made their military tactics nearly flawless. Their warriors could tear through standard combat armor with blade limbs that had evolved to slice through the hardened carapaces of their homeworld's megafauna. The Galactic Defense Coalition mobilized, but everyone knew the truth, the Kryn had never lost a ground engagement. Their 0.7 gravity homeworld had produced soldiers who moved like liquid death across any battlefield. Then the humans volunteered their forces. Commander Zhao of the Human Expeditionary Force stood in the Coalition war room, her posture relaxed despite the tension crackling through the assembled officers. General Thex of the Koroth military studied her with his vertical pupils, remembering Captain Vex's report about human strength. Commander, Thex said carefully, we appreciate Earth's offer, but ground combat against the Kryn is inadvisable. They are biologically engineered by evolution itself for warfare. Perhaps your fleet could. General, Zhao interrupted politely, with respect, we've read the tactical assessments. We know what the Kryn are capable of. We're still volunteering for ground operations. Thexa's skin patterns flickered with concern. Commander, a single Kryn warrior masses approximately 90 kilograms and can exert crushing force with its blade limbs. They've torn through power armor fielded by species much larger than yours. Your soldiers would be operating at about 70% of our home gravity, Zhao finished. General, I understand your concern. But humans have been fighting in Earth gravity, 1.0 standard units, since before we discovered fire. This will feel light to us. The room fell silent. Another officer, a Therian colonel, spoke up nervously. Commander, their warriors can move at speeds exceeding. We've seen the combat footage, Zhao said. She tapped her datapad, and a hologram appeared showing a Kryn warrior in full attack mode. It was terrifyingly fast. Fast. But not faster than we've dealt with before. She pulled up another video, archived footage from Earth's history, showing a human hunting something called a lion. The predator moved with liquid speed, and yet the human tracked it, reacted, survived. Humans evolved alongside persistence predators and ambush hunters, Zhao explained. Our reflexes were forged by creatures that wanted to eat us. The Kryn are impressive, General, but they're not the first apex predator we've faced. 3 days later, human marines landed on the contested colony world of Vendros II. The coalition watched through combat drones, expecting to witness the same slaughter that had befallen every other ground force. What they saw instead rewrote military doctrine across the galaxy. The Kryn attacked in their standard pattern, a lightning-fast assault meant to overwhelm and disorient. They crashed into the human defensive line like a wave of blades and chitin. The drones captured it all in horrifying detail. And then the humans pushed back. A Kryn warrior, its blade limbs moving in a blur, struck at a human marine. The marine's armored forearm came up, blocking the strike with a force that shattered the Kryn's limb. The creature's hive-transmitted scream of shock rippled through their network. How had something so small stopped a killing blow? The human counterattacked, her armored fist driving into the Kryn's thorax with piledriver force. The warrior flew backward 3 meters, its carapace cracked. Across the battlefield, the pattern repeated. Kryn warriors, accustomed to being the strongest creatures in any engagement, found themselves grappling with soldiers who could match their strength and exceed their endurance. A human sergeant grabbed a Kryn warrior that had broken through the line and physically threw it back into its own ranks. General Thex watched the feeds in stunned silence. The humans weren't just fighting, they were dominating. Their armor, built to withstand Earth's crushing gravity during training exercises, treated the Kryn's attacks like minor inconveniences. Their weapons, designed to have manageable recoil in 1.0 standard gravity, hit with devastating force in the lighter environment. But it was their endurance that truly broke the Kryn. The battle raged for 6 hours. Most coalition species would have been exhausted after 2. The Kryn themselves began to slow after 4, their usual blitzkrieg tactics failing as the humans simply refused to break. The human marines, operating in gravity lighter than their morning training runs, kept fighting. They carried wounded comrades, heavy weapons, and ammunition loads that would have required exoskeletons for any other species, all while engaging an enemy that had terrorized the Outer Rim for a generation. When the Kryn finally retreated, they left behind a third of their warrior caste. The human casualties were minimal, mostly minor injuries from the few strikes that had found gaps in their armor. Commander Zhao stood in the aftermath, her armor scorched but intact, and made her report to the coalition command. "Ground secured, General," she said simply. "The Kryn won't be back." General Thex looked at the human commander with new understanding. The galaxy had feared the Kryn because they were evolution's perfect warriors. But the humans were evolution's answer to worse. The burden they carry. The war ended within 2 standard cycles. The Kryn hive, faced with an enemy they couldn't overpower, sued for peace. For the first time in galactic history, the insectoid conquerors retreated to their original systems and ceased expansion. The coalition celebrated, but everyone knew the truth: humanity had changed the balance of power. Captain Vex, now promoted to Admiral after his early reports on human capabilities, found himself assigned as the Koroth liaison to Earth. His ship descended through the atmosphere, and with each kilometer closer to the surface, he felt the gravity increase. His suit's compensators worked overtime, but even with technological assistance, he could feel the pressure building. When the shuttle landed at the Beijing spaceport, Vex needed a full exoskeleton frame just to walk down the ramp. Around him, humans moved normally, children ran and played, elderly individuals strolled through gardens. They lived their entire lives under this crushing force. Ambassador Chen greeted him with that same warm smile. "Welcome to Earth, Admiral. I hope the gravity isn't too uncomfortable." "It's..." Vex struggled to find diplomatic words. "Significant. I confess, Ambassador, experiencing it firsthand makes your people's capabilities even more remarkable." Chen chuckled and gestured toward a transport vehicle. "Come. There's much to show you." Over the following days, Vex toured Earth's cities and facilities. Every moment was a revelation. Human construction equipment moved massive quantities of material without anti-gravity assistance. Their buildings rose stories high, each level supporting the weight of everything above it through simple structural engineering. Their factories operated with machinery that would have been impossibly heavy anywhere else. But it was the small things that truly amazed him. He watched a human child, no more than 6 cycles old, climb a jungle gym at a recreational facility. The child pulled herself up, arm over arm, fighting against a gravitational force that would have pinned most adult aliens to the ground. She laughed as she reached the top. "They train their young this way?" Vex asked Chen, who had accompanied him. "Train. Chen looked puzzled, then understanding dawned. Oh, no, Admiral. That's just play. Human children develop motor skills and strength naturally by moving in our gravity. What you're seeing is simply a child having fun. Vex watched the child descend and run to another structure, her small legs pumping steadily. She wasn't struggling. She was playing. The weight that he could barely stand under with mechanical assistance was her normal. Later, at a military demonstration, Vex witnessed human soldiers training. They ran obstacle courses, climbed walls, carried heavy equipment, all without powered armor. Their drill instructor, a woman with gray hair and a stern expression, explained the routine. This is basic conditioning, she said. Every human soldier completes this course before advanced training begins. We build strength, endurance, and combat readiness in Earth gravity so that deployment to lighter environments provides a tactical advantage. How much weight are they carrying? Vex asked, watching a soldier sprint past with a loaded pack. 40 kilograms of gear, plus their body weight, the instructor replied. In Earth gravity, that's about 6,800 newtons of total force they're working against. Vex's translator struggled to convey his species' expression of disbelief. That single soldier was training under more gravitational force than a Korath heavy assault vehicle experienced fully loaded. That evening, Chen took him to a place called a gym, a facility where humans voluntarily subjected themselves to additional resistance training. Vex watched in fascination as humans lifted metal weights, pulled their own body weight up on bars, and ran on machines going nowhere. We make ourselves stronger, Chen explained, by challenging our bodies beyond normal activity. On most worlds, simply existing is exercise enough. Here, we have to create additional challenges. You intentionally make your lives harder, Vex said slowly. We call it discipline, Chen replied. The weight we live under every day taught us that strength isn't given, it's earned through effort and persistence. On his final day, Chen took Vex to a memorial, a simple stone monument listing names. Thousands of names. These are the humans who died in the Kryn War, Chen said quietly. Every species counts their fallen. We honor ours by remembering that their strength came not from gravity, but from choice. They chose to carry the weight of protecting others. Vex stood silently, his exoskeleton humming softly. He understood now. Human strength wasn't just physical, it was the strength to bear burdens, to persist under pressure, to carry weight both literal and metaphorical. Admiral, Chen said as they walked back to the transport, the galaxy sees humans as warriors, as gravity-born titans. But our real strength is simpler, we learned long ago that everything worth protecting comes with weight. Family, duty, peace, justice, they all require us to carry something heavy. We've just had more practice than most. Vex returned to his ship that evening, his body aching despite the exoskeleton, his mind racing with new understanding. The humans hadn't conquered gravity, they'd made peace with it, turned it into a forge that tempered their bodies and spirits. As his shuttle lifted away from Earth, the gravity decreasing with each kilometer of altitude, Vex felt something he'd never expected to feel about weight, gratitude for its absence. But more than that, he felt respect for those who bore it willingly. The humans had entered the galactic community carrying the weight of their world. And now, Vex realized, they were ready to help carry the weight of the galaxy too.